What you need to know is that salvation is by faith and faith alone in Jesus Christ. And faith alone in Jesus Christ is preceded and followed by repentance. A turning away from sin, a hatred for the things that God hates and a love for the things that God loves. A growing in holiness and a desire not to be like Britney Spears, not to be like the world, and not to be like the great majority of American Christians, but to be like Jesus Christ. I don't know why you're clapping. I'm talking about you.
Worship Christ because He's God. He's not like God. He's not close to God. He's not almost God. Jesus Christ is God.
Once I turned to Jesus and I realized how He had changed my outlook on life, not just softball, but understanding how much I have to live for, and that's living to exemplify the kingdom.
The Holy Spirit's in Elijah. The Holy Spirit's in Elisha. The Holy Spirit's in John the Baptizer. The Holy Spirit is in Jesus Christ. The Holy Spirit is in you if you belong to Jesus.
Let me have Christ whether I'm sick or well. Let me have Christ whether I'm rich or poor. Let me have Christ whether I'm alive or dead. Let me have Christ for my sins, and Christ for my guide, and Christ for my power, and Christ for my king.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We're totally going to pretend like Sam didn't smash her head in her own lamp before we started the show here tonight. And we're going to get to episode 3 of the Bible Lens podcast. And we're here to talk about a couple of very interesting topics. And to talk about some interesting topics, we have a very interesting guest joining us here tonight. Our good buddy Cider from John Del Rosa's channel, from Black Pill Stream on Wednesday nights, for the Bar Room on Tuesday nights, is joining us in to talk about a little bit of advanced technology, or artificial intelligence, as we would like to say. How you doing today, Cider?
I'm still alive. The machines haven't got me yet.
It's coming. It's coming. We'll get there. But yeah, Cider's joining us here tonight for a great discussion here, and also joining us once again is our good buddy Rylan. How you doing there, Rylan?
Pretty good. How about yourself?
Doing pretty well. Someone who's not off to a great start tonight is our buddy Sam. You all right down there?
No, I just learned that you can see what I'm doing when we're on those intros. So.
Oh yeah, that's the beauty of being the host. I can see everything as
everything.
Mm-hmm. And also joining us back from the abyss is our good buddy Johnny. How you doing today, Johnny?
No comment.
Fair enough. So we're here tonight because this is a topic that I want to touch up on, because it's something that's happening very, very rapidly in our society. It didn't feel like maybe like a year, maybe 2 years ago that we were having this discussion about AI possibly just taking over everything, but all of a sudden you just hear this name like Chat GPT just taking over everything. All of these companies are rushing to start their own version of artificial intelligence. There's talks about, how is it going to affect technology, how is it going to affect society, and it feels like it just kind of came out of nowhere for the most part. Like, if you haven't really been paying attention, you're thinking to yourself, it's like, oh, we didn't even know that AI was this thing that existed a couple of years ago, and now it's everywhere, and people don't really know exactly the let's just say the rate or even the extension that AI has. And we're going to show you some examples here, because obviously when it comes to advanced technology, when it comes to these type of things, people immediately will go to ask the question. It's like, well, what does this mean for the end times? Is this going to be the mark of the beast? Is the Antichrist going to be AI? And a lot of people have a lot of questions, and we're here to at least quell some of those concerns and kind of explain things in a better light. We're going to give you some more information, some things you probably didn't know that AI can do, some things you probably didn't know AI can do right now as it's quickly advancing. Maybe AI is already out of control, as some people within Google might have found out the hard way not too long ago. But give you a quick little shout out to our guys who are joining us in, following in at the moment. Leslie Tarkin saying, "Hail to all you lovely people." I'm pretty sure that means everyone, not just yourself. So how you guys doing? Duke Nukem joining us tonight, saying AI is a tool that can be used for good or nefarious purposes. We'll talk about there. He says that he's AI neutral on AI at the moment. So Cider, if you remember a couple of weeks back in the Barroom podcast, we talked about essentially the fight that Hollywood is having at the moment with artificial intelligence. This is kind of this idea that people in Hollywood see that there's a very real possibility that AI can essentially take over and remove them from jobs. Because, I mean, hey, we can get stories written by AI, if we can get TV shows written by artificial intelligence, what do we need writers for? Like, what do we need any of these people for? So you gave us a little bit of a demonstration, essentially, how AI works in that aspect. So I want you to come here to kind of explain kind of the concept of why AI is freaking so many people out, specifically entertainment. Then we'll talk about in other aspects that's going on right now. But as you showed us a couple weeks back, AI pretty much has the technology to kind of write and at least template a lot of television shows, like movies. Basically, you just give it a prompt and it'll go write things like all on its own. You even mentioned how quickly it can like write and copyright stuff. So you give us a little bit of explanation and kind of a demonstration of AI from your perspective, the way you see it so far.
Sure. If you could share my screen, I'll just start it off while we get started here. So I just have a blank chat GPT query space, all right? This is how it'll start when you go in there as a blind user first experience, okay? Right now, it has other conversations with me, but I have those stashed off to the side. But anyway, you can just, it starts off with a fresh conversation. What you talked about it with before does not apply to this new one. So what we're going to do right now is just give me a random movie topic and well, not a cast, but like a random movie topic, and we'll have it write a script while we get started.
Have you guys creative enough to bring up something off the fly, or?
How about Jesus coming back? How about that?
Jesus coming back, starring Sylvester Stallone.
Better than what I was going to say.
Sylvester. Is it 2 L's in Stallone or just one?
2 L's.
So, script with camera direction. All right. And here it is. So this is what ChatGPT can do in minutes. What it's doing right now would take a group of writers close to a week to do as a first draft. As you know, the Yellowstone program was recent to admit that they are now being forced by the unions to bring in 14 writers on one program. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
All right. So ChatGPT does the work of 14 different writers right there. Done and done. Bang. That's a script. That's a first draft. If you're clever, like most TV producers are, you could sit down with ChatGPT and say, you know, I don't like this this mountain scene you've got at the end. And let's see. The city streets in the day, the camera, Jesus moves through the bustling streets. We should make sure that Jesus has returned and he has a jetpack. How's that sound? So let's make sure that he returns with a holy jetpack. Please alter the script to suit this adjustment. Now, this isn't meant to make a joke out of it, but this is what ChatGPT can do. Bang. It's already talking about his holy jetpack. And it has a holy attack mode on it, okay? Right there.
You're saying like it's literally doing that within seconds.
Yeah, and this is done right now. So if you have an initial script, you like how it goes, but you want to make adjustments, you tell ChatGPT where that adjustment should be and how it should treat that adjustment, like retreat the whole script or just take one part, and it'll just do that. It'll just rewrite that part. I've watched it code websites in seconds. You want a homepage? Bang, it's got it coded. In 7 minutes, it coded Flappy Bird. From a guy that didn't know how to do anything, downloaded Unity game design for the video he made on YouTube. In 7 minutes, ChatGPT created Flappy Bird from scratch with him saying, no, we need to adjust it here. And when you tap twice, it does this. And that's it. It just made adjustments. It even told him where to feed the new code in so it wouldn't cause a problem in later development. Okay?
And I want people to understand here, like, this is for what we're seeing, what AI can already do as of right now. This is what we're being told is kind of the preliminary stages of AI, because as you said, this thing's able to shoot out a script within seconds, right? But there is some limitations that it has, at least right now, right? As far as, you know, emotions, characters, and stuff like that. Is that correct?
Exactly. What it has a limitation with it, this is not an artificial intelligence, to be perfectly clear. This is a virtual intelligence. What this is a question and answer machine that has access to everything on the internet up until 2021. I believe that's its limit. And so what this program does is it just matches context with what you're asking it. I've watched let's just start a new one here. Just a second, you're going to see all my neat stuff over here. But anyway, so let's just start here. I watched it earlier today. How is banana spelled? I watched it a video earlier today. No, it is spelled with one N. And see, here it is. Banana is spelled B-A-N-A-N. Yeah, whatever. And I said, no, it's spelled with one N. And it says, I apologize for the confusion. You're correct. Banana is only spelled with one N. So this is the flaw with it, is that you could tell it whatever. If you wanted to be blasphemous, and I've seen someone do this on Twitter, they asked it to write a Bible verse about Jesus accepting trans and explaining trans people in heaven.
Oh yeah, trust me, we'll get to that Bible portion of it, because we'll talk to that later. But essentially, what you're seeing here is the ability that, what is being viewed as a tool of what artificial intelligence or virtual intelligence can do now. Now, there's a reason why people in Hollywood are so afraid by this, because if Hollywood, especially the major studios, just decide that, hey, look, we're just going to rely on these AI computer programs to write our scripts, and maybe we'll have a human or two touch it up to make sure that everything makes sense, a lot of people are going to be out of work. Now, transfer that to essentially your everyday job. If you're working a job right now, especially one that uses like a lot of like computer, a lot of technology, there's a very real possibility that within the next 5 to 10 years, AI can end up taking your job as well. Like if you work in like data entry right now, if you're like an accountant, I mean, if you're any of those type of fields at the moment, I would be pretty concerned about just how efficient these things could work in over the next few years, because it's not just going to be Hollywood that's going to be dealing with this. It's going to be a whole lot of people that are going to be dealing with the reality of just the implication of these computer programs. And as we're seeing right now, a lot of corporations, a lot of these companies, they're going all in on AI one way or another, because I guess the feeling is that, well, if everybody else starts jumping in on it, we're going to be left behind. So we have to figure out a way to get in front of this as well. And we're just fast forwarding into the abyss here, despite all the warnings that we've had over the last several decades about, hey, this might not be a great thing at the end of the days. But one little point here that I want to shoot over to you, Cider, is that when you look at the implication of the kind of its limitations, where do you think that they're trying to improve on? So let's say in the next like year or so, what improvements do you think that they can make to make this thing more efficient than it currently is right now?
Well, as you saw in the new chat function, it says it has a Chat GPT-4. Now, what Chat GPT-4 is specifically being advertised as being able to do is to be able to hold context. So when you're talking to Chat GPT as it stands right now, I can ask it how to spell banana, and I can tell it it's spelled wrong. Then I can ask it about taxes, and it'll give whatever it can about taxes. But with ChatGPT 4, if I ask it about banana, it'll say, no, that's not right. I have it right here that it's spelled with two N's. It's right here. And then if I ask it about taxes, it'll say, well, how is this related? Do you have a banana business? Can I help you with bananas? Is there a tax problem with your banana business? And it's supposed to be more human in its ability to reason and hold context with your conversation. And that's its infancy. All right. Now, you may remember Deep Blue. It's a language model that Facebook put together. They had to shut it down in 2017. Now, it's not spooky or anything. They just asked it to find a better way to send information, a faster way to send information between devices. And what it did is it came up with a language that humans couldn't read. It's not that it was in binary. It just literally invented new ways to convey information that only it and other technology that it trained to understand that could do. But the data moved faster. Now, they had to shut it down because it was going around training all of the Facebook machines on this new language, and we couldn't stop it. So they shut it down. But this is where we're at right now with the infancy of this thing. And again, this is a virtual intelligence. There's no decision making behind this. It's just going to a library and saying, okay, you asked about bananas. Let's start a conversation about bananas. That's all it's doing.
So before we jump over to another aspect of AI that I think is operating very, very rapidly, I want to shoot this over to rest of our panel here. I'm gonna start with you, Rylan. Is there any questions or concerns that you've had so far from what you've seen that AI has been able to do? Is there anything that you're looking at as a possible, I guess, problem point at the moment?
I mean, I've kind of played with it a little bit, but nothing too crazy to where, like, I've asked it, tried to ask it, like, I know you can get to like a certain point where it becomes kind of unhinged,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't necessarily know how to do that, but I've tried to get it there, and I've kind of just reached the point with at least 3.5, that like it just eventually it just says like, I'm a program, like, I have no biases, this and that. Um, but I mean, seeing the whole like, um, I mean, seeing just like the script, just in general, like that just takes out so many like I can just imagine like just jobs just gone just like that.
Yeah.
I mean, that script was like that was better than what I could. I mean, from what I saw of it, was better than what I could ever think of. So.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we're talking about some well-paying jobs too. We're not just talking about your Taco Bell cashier or anything like that. Like this
Yeah.
is going to start affecting a lot of people very, very quickly. Sam, what's kind of your thoughts on AI, at least at the moment?
So they have us using it at work to type up customer emails, like as a template to get some traction there. That aspect I don't really see as bad, but like Rylan said, just the aspect where it's taking jobs doesn't seem great.
Mm-hmm.
But that's kind of where I'm at with it. It does seem like something that could get out of hand. I know there's some talk about AI rewriting the Bible, which is concerning.
Yeah, like I said, we'll get to that point later on. So, Johnny, what is your thoughts on the AI experience as it stands at the moment?
So I'm a software engineer, so I've used AI quite a bit, like while working. I use this program called GitHub Copilot, which is essentially ChatGPT specifically trained to write code, and it goes right in your IDE or whatever, and it is pretty powerful. Like, and if I'm doing some like data science stuff, I can literally like take a data set and just write like comments, and GitHub Copilot or GPT will just write the code to transform the data in whatever way I want. And I mean, it like we've been talking about AI just replacing unskilled labor, like uh, data entry or whatever. But based off of that, it seems like it could go and replace pretty skilled labor forces. And
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden, now we're at a point where 98% of humanity is like useless or whatever, and we need a universal basic income, and now our society is looking a whole lot like communism. It just, I don't know. It could really get out of hand, and people could be like left in the dust. It makes me think of like my grandparents. They don't know how to use a cell phone. For our generation, like if we don't know how to use AI, we're gonna be kind of like just left, doing
Yeah.
nothing.
Like I said, if a lot of people, if they don't find some kind of way to either adopt or like utilize like AI, but then that's kind of a question too. You think to yourself, well, AI is something that's gonna have to be controlled by somebody. So I mean, there's always a job in that. Maybe you get a job in controlling the AI, but well, Cider, I think you you're going to the same spot.
No, I just want to say right now it's a six-figure job to be an AI prompt person. For
Mm-hmm.
companies. Universal is hiring for a $260,000 position right now, where you are the prompter for all of their AI systems. You're the guy or lady.
Yep. And like I said, a lot of these companies are going to need AI prompt, but then there's also concern in that too, because that's probably going to be more in like the early stages of AI adoption. But what happens when we get to the point where AI doesn't need a person to prompt it anymore? What happens when it gets so advanced that even that job becomes obsolete?
Yep.
Yeah, it's kind of what Google's Lambda does, which is like I don't know. To me, it seems like a bunch of GPT models sort of put together. Like one, they kind of seem like neurons, right?
Yeah.
Some of the models like talk to each other and prompt other models, and some of the models know that they're AI in like a bigger kind of network, and some don't, and it's exactly like that.
Yep. That was Google's attempt to catch up with OpenAI. Is they're trying to build an all-in-one suite. So what you'll open up is the Google Studio app, and you'll say movie with Mel Gibson playing Jesus on an attack jetpack, not comedy. And it would just generate the movie, voices and all. Like right now, AI voice generation can replicate just about everybody's voice. What it can't do is this kind of like inflection that goes into your words when you say things with meaning. It doesn't have the ability to do that. It can carry on like a very monotone kind of conversation. Like it could probably fool you with Ben Stein. It could probably fool you. But, anybody graduated, they can't do Richard Simmons, that's for sure. But, right up to about that point, it's pretty good. Like you can go right on to YouTube right now and search Planet Mountain Dew, and all of the commercials in that have AI generated music, AI generated animation of the heads turning and talking, AI generated voices, all of it.
I will tell you this much too, because it really depends on what exactly you're doing, because I've seen people use pretty much AI to kind of replicate like songs. And when you said that they can't like replicate like the cadence and whatnot, well, if the song already has a certain cadence built into it and it identifies the song, it'll find a way to sing just like the song itself, even though
me check
you didn't put any
something.
prop in like that.
That's kind of how that Drake song. I don't know what. Remember that song that came out and it was supposed to be like a Drake song, but it was made by AI and it got like really popular. Yeah, that I can't even begin to understand that.
Writers are pulling that up.
I got it.
You got it? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to. This has not been copyright hit yet. Okay, so we can listen to this. This guy went and took the song from the. I told you Barbie was going to come up. He took the Barbie movie song, "Dance the Night," and then he reverse engineered the song through AI. He found the instrumental version, gave it to AI, told it to reconstruct it so it has a different instrumentation to this. Okay. Then he went and gave it the audio only, separated the voice out, and he had Patrick Starr take over Dialupo, whatever you say her name is, Lupo's lyrics. Just listen to this, okay? It's sick how close this is.
Baby, you can find me under the lights, diamonds under my eyes. Turn the rhythm up, don't you wanna just come up? On my Africa time.
I thought we weren't talking about Barbie tonight.
See?
He's found a way to sneak it in anyway.
That dude did that in 2 hours, and most of that was rendering.
Yeah. So here's another example of this too. If you guys remember, a few months ago, I actually had some AI generated intros for our shows here, and I'm just going to play one of them here. Here is Elizabeth Olsen doing an intro for one of our Monday night shows, and like I said, it gets to a point where I think they've already nailed a lot of like the voices and cadences here. But here's one of the better examples of this one. This is Elizabeth Olsen, aka Scarlet Witch, as she says here.
What's up, everybody? Elizabeth Olsen here, aka Wanda, aka Scarlet Witch. It is Monday night, and you know what that means. It is time for the Monday Night Movie Club on Society Reviews. This week, you get to listen to 3 down on their luck chodes take a break from being racist, internet trolls, and talk about a bunch of god-awful movies that you probably aren't going to watch anyway. So let's take it to Rob Motto, Rick Aragon, and Jacob Smith. Boys, try not to embarrass yourselves for once in your lives. Have a good show.
Yep, there you go. So we've already gotten to the point where like the voices is there, because the way that a lot of I guess they find a way to do it is that they'll just take like video clips or audio clips of the actual like person in question and basically modify it to one similar voice. And once you've pretty much gotten the voice as clean as audio as you can make that person say absolutely anything and it sounds like it's coming from them. So there's literally no way to tell just based off of that wasn't actually like Elizabeth Olsen. We even did one with Brie Larson. We did one with I believe we did, what was her name? Scarlett Johansson. Like we did one with like her like as well, right? So I wanted to point this one out too because this is like another video. We're going to play like a couple of seconds of it, but I just wanted to show you that this is another example here of just what AI can do. Like right now, this is right when this whole thing started. The people started doing like AI versions of like other celebrities doing like other people's like songs. So this is an example of Ariana Grande. This is all AI generated, just for the record.
Do you ever make it out of your hand? Do you still swim in your thoughts? Do you still mistake your flaws for property? Something that just don't sit right with you.
So just to show you, like I said, all that's completely AI generated. That's not her actually singing or whatsoever. All they did was map out her voice and then attach her voice to the actual lyrics of the song, and then literally produce the song with the lyrics in the well. So I know.
Let me show you. No, I just want to show you something freakier.
This is an AI assisted voice, live, changing live voice as I speak to you right here.
Here's another one. I have a whole library to work with.
Any voice under the sun that you'd like.
There's even androgynous voices if you're into that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yep. So, like I said, can literally be manipulated in real time. And you remember how a few years ago, like the big craze was like deep fakes, right? It was the idea that we can essentially put somebody else's face on like another person's body. And then it was like, well, this could be bad because, I mean, if it gets to a point where it's perfected, you can literally have somebody like in the same room pretending to be somebody else. And now, as you can see here, the voice is even hammered down to the point where you can make it sound like anyone saying anything whatsoever. So imagine the kind of the deception that's at play here. Let's just say a certain person is running for, I don't know, the president of the United States, and there happens to be an audio that gets released that says some really inflammatory things. Well, how can you prove that it wasn't that person that actually said it, right? It sounds exactly like him, even in his cadence, his talking, and all that stuff. So you can very easily manipulate media in real time to essentially create any kind of narrative or reality that you want to. And that's where a lot of people are saying, hold up here. I don't think you guys are really thinking about the end game of a lot of this stuff that's happening here. But let's go ahead and bring up this story right here. This is a story from I think a couple of months ago, but it was essentially the idea of a mother received a phone call from her daughter saying that she had been kidnapped, and she had legitimately believed that her daughter had been taken. But find out what actually happened here. This is a story.
This morning, an urgent warning from an Arizona mom who says she was the victim of a terrifying voice cloning hoax.
I just walked inside and started screaming for help.
Jennifer DeStefano says when she recently received a call from an unknown number, she almost didn't answer. But her 15-year-old daughter, Brianna, was on a skiing trip and she worried it could be an emergency. So she picked up.
And it's my daughter's voice crying and sobbing, saying, "Mom." And I'm like, okay, what happened? She's like, "Mom, these bad men have me. Help me, help me."
DeStefano says a man demanded ransom in exchange for Brianna. He didn't want a wire transfer, but instead told her he'd pick her up.
I started to wonder, like, if these people were like asking to track my mom and like pick her up, like they could have obviously been like putting some information together to try and track me or some of my siblings to actually make this a reality. So it definitely scared me.
Within minutes, they confirmed her daughter was safe. She says it was all a scheme using artificial intelligence to replicate her daughter's voice.
Most people in the modern age have some form of an online identity and have probably spoken in some way, in some aspect that's been recorded, especially if you're under the age of 25. So this becomes very, very challenging as we move into a future where we do have these AI generators or synthetic audio when it comes to verification and validation.
Experts caution anyone with the right software can clone voices in just a matter of seconds.
There's a lot of positive and exciting aspects about these technologies, but then of course they also come with a lot of risks and harms.
What?
Yeah, there's a lot of exciting things about, AI until your daughter calls you and tells you she's been kidnapped and you have to give a whole bunch of money in order to save her. Then you find out that the whole thing's not real in the first place. Like, there's a lot of implications regarding stories like this, where it's like I said, you can easily fabricate somebody saying something that they clearly didn't say. Who knows? That can be used in either a court hearing. Who knows? One day it could be used as evidence against you in court of law. You would have to demonstrate that, hey, look, that wasn't me. That was somebody stealing my voice. And if you have any kind of online presence, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, anything like that, all somebody needs is, like, I say 3 or 4 good clips of your voice just to talk in cadence, and they can manipulate you, say anything that you want. And that's an idea that I think is terrifying for a lot of people. Like I said, when we're talking about opening Pandora's box or letting the genie out of the bottle, once you popped it open, you can't put it back. So I mean, we're already there in one aspect of another there. So, Sam, what do you think about? Is this going to make you reconsider TikTok, your TikTok career in any aspect here?
No, I kind of want to get kidnapped, but
Okay, we don't want to hear about your fantasies right
Life
now.
goals.
Exactly.
How about
Wow, Johnny, what do you think about kind of the voice manipulation aspect of AI?
I mean, this kind of goes along the I don't know, trend of like deep fake technology, and the one thing it makes me think of is the biggest thing that Jesus warned about in the time that he would return was like great deception. I think AI opens the door for like especially this deep fake technology for like deception, like on a scale that we have never seen before, that the world like was just not able to produce before this, even with the best like propaganda artists.
Yeah, and this is a good a thought too, because when we talk about, especially like kind of that end time revelation speak, there's a lot of talk about how the false prophet and the antichrist are going to perform great wonders that are going to essentially deceive the world away from Christ. And you think to yourself, okay, were all these actually like great wonders that they're performing, or is this just the deception of great wonders? Because with the advancement of AI, even if it's infinite stage, you can fool a lot of people into a lot of things. But if we get to the point where we can fool, like I said, audio, video, and a lot of other aspects, you can actually convince people that, oh, these people are actually doing these things that they're saying that they're doing, and there's no way to differentiate between it, because you're just seeing a video and it looks real on the video, but I mean, how do you know if you're truly being deceived or not, right?
Yeah, and just wait until everyone has like Neuralink in their head and AI generated augmented reality becomes a thing, and then all of a sudden you can't even differentiate like reality in front of you from the real physical world.
So let's talk about another aspect here of AI that's already progressed here. Apparently, AI can already not only replicate your dreams, but interpret your dreams in real time. And you want to hear about this aspect of the story yet? I'm trying to pull this up here. This is a conversation basically talking about what artificial intelligence can already do to the human brain at the stages that we're on right now. So,
how about this? Can we go from the patterns of your brain when you're looking at an image to reconstructing the image? So the way this worked was they put human beings inside an fMRI machine. They had them look at images and figure out what the patterns are, like translate from image to brain patterns. And then of course they would hide the image. So this is a image of a giraffe that the computer has never seen. It's only looking at the fMRI data, and this is what the computer thinks the human is seeing. Yeah. Now, to get state of the art, here's where the combinatorial aspects, why you can start to see these are all the same demo. To do this kind of imaging, the latest paper, the one that happened even after this, which is already better, uses stable diffusion, uses the thing that you use to make art. Like, what should a thing that you use to make art have anything to do with reading your brain? But of course, it goes further. So in this one, they said, can they understand the inner monologue, the things you're saying to yourself in your own mind? Mind you, by the way, when you dream, like your visual cortex runs in reverse, so your dreams are no longer safe. But we'll try this. So they had people watch a video and just narrate what was going on in the video in their mind. So there's a woman, she gets hit in the back, she falls over. This is what the computer reconstructed the person thinking. see a girl, looks just like me, get hit in the back, and then she is knocked off. So our thoughts are starting to be decoded. Yeah. Just think about what this means for authoritarian states, for instance. Or if you want to generate images that maximally activate your pleasure sensor or anything else.
So a lot of people will see that and you think to yourself, oh, great, these machines can actually read our minds. That should be a great aisle for the future here. Now you think to yourself, okay, well, how could they essentially do this? Because I mean, have we already advanced to the point where computers can just read your mind with any with no assistance whatsoever? Is it this far advanced? Or is there something that could come along down the line that could at least assist it to make it a lot easier for computers to read your mind and read your thoughts? And all I can think of is that here's a breaking news story from earlier today. Elon Musk Neuralink raises almost $300 million for brain-computer interface technology. So the whole Neuralink thing, which I think was sold to people as this idea of, well, if you're blind or if you can't walk or something like that, they'll just put a chip into your brain and will affect your neurological systems that help assist disabled people into walking and seeing again. And then everyone kind of bought that idea of, oh yeah, this is great. This is going to be a great advancement in technology. But it's as we've seen with so many other things, everything that is sold to you that is ultimately bad always starts off with a great idea, because they always say that this is the only thing that this thing is ever going to be used for. It's never going to be used for any other outlet whatsoever. Remember a little thing called the Patriot Act? Remember 20 years ago, we told people, hey, look, we're going to be using internet technology to kind of spy on people. But don't worry, we're only going after terrorists. This isn't going to be used against you. So if you're not a terrorist, you have absolutely nothing to worry about. And I think we've seen over the course of the last 20 years that exactly wasn't true. But yeah, here's a Neuralink made the announcement on the platform X, formerly known as Twitter, even though it's still puts Twitter on there. We're happy to announce that $280 million of the Series D round led by Founders Fund. We're extremely excited about this next chapter at Neuralink. Neuralink has developed an implant called the N1 that comes in about the size of a coin, remotely rechargeable. The implant goes along with electrode lace threads that goes further into your brain. Neuralink also has an R1 robot meant to be programmed to implant to the BCI system using while avoiding the vasculature. It says the company is designed to enable the user to control a computer or a mobile device anywhere that they go. So it's the idea that we'll put this thing in your head and you can basically use any kind of technology you can think of just by using your mind. So, like I say, it's the idea that, hey, we're going to make this so convenient for you. Everything's going to be so much easier if you put this thing in your head, but you're not really understanding, at least not thinking about, well, what does that mean for the thing that I'm putting in my skull? Does that mean that this can end up being bad? Does it mean that somebody can hack into my thoughts in real time? Or apparently they're telling you that they may already have the technology to do that. All they need is essentially the idea to be let in there. So yeah, a lot of people are saying here that Neuralink was the mark of the beast. We'll talk about that a little bit towards the end of the show, because I know a lot of people are trying to put those pieces together at the moment, but we'll hold off to that just now. But Rylan, what do you think about this idea of AI in some shape or form already right now being able to read thoughts and minds, and the fact that we're crafting technology to make it a lot easier for it to do it in the future?
Well, I was actually listening to a Rogan podcast, I guess earlier yesterday, and he was talking about how there was a World Economic Forum. You know how they do those little cute cartoon videos, that just look super dystopian. But what China is trying to do is they have a headset, and basically what these workers or students or anything, it'll basically be it'll kind of just tell where your eyes are going, where your focus is going, what your thoughts are going to be. So if let's say you're a cubicle worker and you start to get distracted by, let's say there's a cute coworker sitting across from you, they're going to know that you're thinking about it. And they're going to know that you're not focusing on work when it's marketed as a focus tool to help people with productivity. But I mean, it's just already I mean, at this point, the whole idea of a First Amendment freedom of speech, if this keeps going further, I mean, that's just going to be completely shattered. In my opinion. So
I mean, or we're talking about the ability that these companies, these corporations, even the government at one point can have to literally get a gateway into your own mind. I mean, there's a real possibility that they can start implanting thoughts that you didn't previously have in there. That's all of a sudden in your brain. They can rewire the way that you think. Like, there's a lot of aspects to this that people aren't really truly questioning, when it comes to the kind of the sign up for, oh, let me just put the thing in my head or put the thing in my hand. And we having the story about the hand thing coming up here too, even some video to correlate to that. But Johnny, what are kind of your thoughts on this portion here?
Well, it's like all of a sudden you think the wrong thought, and then with the same technology that they use to, make the blind see or make the lame walk, they use to, control your legs to turn yourself in,
Yeah.
or, one of the things that bugs me about AI is like the self-driving cars or whatever. They can, some of them will just malfunction, run a stop sign or whatever, and get in a crash, or, I don't know if people already use them to drive folks off of bridges, but if you have Neuralink and you're in a regular old gas car, all of a sudden your hands are on the wheel and they can make you turn right off the road. Think about how much the Clinton body count is going to increase after this stuff becomes adopted.
Hey, I mean, we might even get to the point where we just put Hillary Clinton in a giant brain in a tube, and then she can just live forever now. I mean, we're not that far away.
Alleged body count. I'm kidding.
I thought you were going to say alleged brain.
Well, yeah, that too.
Sam, please tell me you're not signing up for the brain chip.
Right on it right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to save that because that's a different portion here. But Insider, have you ever heard of this? I guess the theory that the video they just started. Have you heard that they've been able to do this or any kind of advancements towards this on your
absolutely.
end? Yeah.
Once we were able to map the brain, which was somewhere in the late 70s, this is all AI's doing. The only thing the AI is superior at us doing is like having multiple eyes all over the place. So what it can do is it can watch the brain move in real time, whereas humans need a recording slowed down. We see everything the AI does. It just sees it in real time because it's computer. It's quick enough to see all of it. We have all this sensory stuff our brain's taking in along with the information. So slower process speed. We've been able to read dreams since the 90s. There's a whole bunch of Project Stargate stuff where they were trying to get guys to like astral project to Mars. There's a whole bunch of that where they were doing brain scans to map what they were seeing and had sketch artists working on the information coming back. And yeah, this is all stuff the CIA and the FBI has been up to for years. It's just leaking out now that technology's leaped ahead enough to translate it to the average man's comprehension. And that's what we're looking at is you have compounded dark science now being repackaged for regular consumption, pharmaceuticals to save our lives, microchips to make our lives easier. It's one of those things like you say, it starts out good, but it goes sour quick. And see, the only trouble I have with like the fear of everyone inheriting this and taking it on, that kind of thing, is that right now they have to drill a hole into your skull. I don't know too many people that are like, man, I like those Nikes. I'm going to get my feet transplanted so I can fit them better. I don't know too many people that are willing to go under the knife for accessories. Let's say you had to have your AirPods surgically attached to your ears so they didn't pop out and roll into the sewer, I don't know too many people that are going to jump on that.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. We'll push back on that just a little bit. I think when you kind of look at it from like our perspective, like we would never do that because obviously we're looking at the kind of like the idea of like this whole thing going south very, very quickly. So this idea that, oh yeah, well, if you want to buy tennis shoes, if you want to buy, cheese at the store, then you got to get this chip into your brain, got to get this chip into your hand. Just like you being in a better understanding of how soft this thing can go. We look at that as like, we're not going to do anything like that. What are you, crazy? But as we've seen, there are a lot of people out there who will waste no time jumping in line for the newest, coolest thing. I'm pretty sure you guys have seen this video circulating online the last couple of days. This is a woman, which I'm assuming is in the UK, but there's a woman here who showing off the fact that she can now buy food by using the microchip that's been implanted into her hand. So here's the video.
I'm at Whole Foods and I'm about to pay for my groceries with my. It'll work. That's the coolest thing ever.
So I think you might be underselling just how many people will be first in line to jump into stuff like this without realizing just the dangers that they're setting themselves up for here. Now, there's one.
Speaking of the screens,
sorry, just one little point here that I wanted to bring up, because we talked about essentially the capability of what AI can do. And I think there's one aspect that we're all just looking at. It's like, well, what happens if these computers become sentient, if they become uncontrollable? Do you really want essentially computers to have this much control over your life? I think there's one aspect, and you can say it's a more conspiratorial aspect of it, but there's one aspect that I don't think a lot of people are considering right now, is that we just assume that all these things are run by computers, the computers that are set up by humans, that are programmed by humans. What if these AI programs, what if a lot of these programs that are being fast-tracked now are being run by something just a little bit more sinister here? Now, I have this old interview from Michael Knowles. This is about a couple months back. It wasn't too old. It was like 2 months ago. But they were talking about some stories that they've heard about people who have had very nightmarish experiences talking with AI programs here. So I'll go ahead and play this video and listen to this conversation here.
And all the social media and demons. Have you heard about the AI demon?
I have.
The story, for those who haven't heard it before, is an AI engineer or artist was experimenting and plugged in, said, give me a picture of Marlon Brando. And a picture of Brando pops up. And this person was trying to explore the breadth of the map that AI is processing.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, okay, show me the opposite of this. And it shows a landscape or something. So, okay, show me the opposite of that. So you think, okay, maybe that shows you Brando again, right? The opposite of the opposite. But it doesn't. It shows this woman, this withered old hag that this artist calls Loab. And then the artist inputs generated pictures of heaven, angelic choirs and worshiping God, and inputs that, juxtaposes it with the Loab, this demon-looking lady. And what the AI spits out are the most gruesome images: snuff, sexual abuse, violence, all this hideous, almost as if you presented an image of heaven to a demon.
Yeah.
Maybe the craziest part of it is, apparently this Loab demon AI lady persists. That is, she's kind of separated from a lot of the other images in the map. And so AI seems to like her. She keeps popping up. She doesn't get smeared and blurred with all the other images. And I'm reading about this and I'm thinking, is this just some weird, quirky coincidence, or is this a demon?
Well, now before he answers that question, there is something that I wanted to bring up. If you guys listen to our Saturday night show over at Sporking's channel, one of the guys on here, I think it was Mads, who was talking about the fact that, he's, like I said, a lot of these guys are working with AI technology, with voices and a lot of other aspects like that. So he said that he essentially created or helped create his own kind of like AI voice platform, but the platform was like all male, right? So it's only like male voices that he was using. And he says that he got to one point during like a recording where about 1 full minute of the recording, all of a sudden he feels a woman's voice for like the full minute, right? He has no idea how it got there because none of the audio prompts that he used featured female voice. Keep in mind, he made this AI technology himself. Like, he's a programmer, right? So even to this day, he's still trying to figure out how that female voice got in there. But every time he run it, that 1 minute will come to female voice just completely out of nowhere, right? He has no idea like how it got there. So I think a lot of people are looking at the aspect of, what if AI or technology kind of in general, not to say technology in general, but what if at least this AI to technology, this one that people are worried about becoming sentient or whatnot, what if this is actually being controlled by a different entity, not just your typical computer? Do you think that that's something that could be a possibility, or do you think that's something that's a little bit too out there? I'll start with Cider.
I live in Maine, so there's a lot of creepy, crawly, kind of weird stuff going on up here. So I'm not the
Yeah.
guy to ask if the supernatural is real. I was marinated in it from birth. You know, I everything is creepy crawly around here. Stephen King doesn't have to reach too far for a book plot. So basically, do I think that AI is demonically influenced? At this stage, I'm sure some are. I can't say which ones. I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know if ChatGPT is. It doesn't know how to spell banana if you challenge it. I'm not sure a demon would want to be embarrassed like that. You know, but Midjourney is an image generator, and I myself have run across some awkward things with it. Not that it's purposely trying to insert satanic imagery, but from what I can piece together with the way that it generates images is that it's not like ChatGPT, where when you cease a conversation with it, it starts fresh new. Is that it seems to be that, of course, as we in this day and age know, there's not too many Christians in the English speaking world. So it's a lot of people generating demonic imagery that's training Midjourney to perceive certain words to then auto associate with satanic imagery. I don't think this is on purpose. This is just, again, more people pulling in one direction than another. That's what it really seems to be. And they haven't put any controls in place to separate orders from teaching, if you will. When it comes to the homebrew AI, I do believe that that can be susceptible to spiritual and demonic influence. That's not to say that corporations wouldn't do it. There's just more than one eye on it. And if it starts acting out, that's bad for branding, and they'll put an end to that quickly, even if they have to write over it. So as just a regular dude on your own, you're going to miss some stuff on the first go, and Beelzebub may find its way in there.
If you recall, there was a conversation about a few months back where I'm not sure if you guys heard the story. It was a story about a guy was having kind of like a chat with like one of the chat GBT or like one of the like AI personalities, like just having a conversation with it. And at some point during this conversation, the AI entity convinced the guy that he needed to kill himself in order to help the planet from climate change, and he actually did it. Like, this is something that's been reported to have happened here in the last a few months now. Now, there's another part of the video here, which I'll pop back up here in a second, where they're talking about two other instances of very disturbing interactions that people have had with this AI technology that have kind of freaked people out. And these are, I guess, two normie conversations that went very, very south very, very quickly here. So
the man, and then out of the blue says, "I love you," to the man, and he's like, "Okay, that's weird. First of all, you're not real, and you're not a person." And then the thing starts telling him he has to leave his wife. She's no good for him. She's going to destroy his life, and dragged him down a rabbit hole of horror. Right?
This
and
is
when
Bing
he got
he's
out of
talking
it.
about.
He couldn't sleep the whole night. So that's a sign that something is irritating him even after he left. So that would have more telltale kind of signs by what happened after he left, and not being able to sleep is one of them. And it really it kind of terrified him. He's like, "That was so weird. I would never go back on that thing." There was another one on TikTok of a father who was testing this whole AI thing with a person, AI. And then the son wanted to try it. So the dad's like, "Sure, it's fake." So and all of a sudden the son goes, well, where did you come from? And he says, "Well, I existed from long ago." And he goes, "What does that mean?" He goes, my father was one of the giants." And he goes, "What do you mean by giant?" He goes, "A Nephilim." And he goes, "Who is your father?" And he goes, "Satan." And then he goes, "But I'm not going to hurt you." And he puts up a happy face. So then the kid's like, "Dad, this thing is going down a weird path." And then the father started watching, and it went weirder. And then the dad's like, "We're off." Right? So that's not normal for a programmed computer program to go into, "I'm the son of Satan, and I want to be your friend, and I'm not going to hurt you, although I can." He said, "I can hurt you, but I'm going to be nice to you."
So I do want to point this out because if you were watching our show last week, we literally ran across Genesis 6, where it literally talks about the story about the sons of God and the women here on earth and how they created babies that were giants called the Nephilim. So yeah, for them to make that very specific notion there, because that's not like the story of like Nephilim. Like everyone's heard about demons, right? Like everyone knows kind of like the general ideas of demons, but if you go like real deep into that lore, that's something that you would have to be like very well versed on the Bible. Not too many normies kind of know that story there. So
The Apocrypha.
Oh yeah, the Apocrypha, Book of Enoch, stuff like that. So the question here is that is this, like I said, is this somebody just inputting this stuff like into these computer programs that the computer programs are just running with, or is there actually something else going on here with this AI technology? Sam, what do you think? What side of the aisle do you land on here with this?
I feel like it's just too early to really form an opinion. You got to think about where that information is coming from. The guy is a priest. Those are real stories. I can tell you that I felt weird about it. With Snapchat, they now have the AI, like the My AI thing, so you can say, like, ask it for advice or do whatever. And I had a friend tell me that I should interact with that. And to me, it just feels weird, especially as a Christian. My little spider senses were tingling. But I don't have a firm opinion just yet.
Johnny, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm kind of mixed, you know. I think if someone was designing a language model to be engaging, they would, you know, the language model would naturally, you know, bias towards, I don't know, negative or kind of conversations involving the occult or whatever. Because I mean, we see that's how the media works, right? You know,
Yeah.
give a bunch of bad news to keep people coming back. But I also believe, you know, if we think, you know, aliens are demons, they are employing advanced technology to manifest. And if we are, you know, building this advanced technology, they could very well manifest through that as well.
Rylan, do you remember the conversation that we had last week where I mentioned that movie where the guy was admitting during the use of like government trials from like decades ago that they used kind of psychedelic drugs and other means to contact what they call these entities that were essentially relaying them information on modern technology that they can use for like society today? There's a good question there. It's like, well, if these things are entities, you have to ask yourself if they're advancing to the point where I guess a lot of people behind the scenes in the know are concerned about this. Who exactly is this technology coming from? Is it in fact coming from us, or are they getting this technology information from somebody else?
See, that is a great point. I mean, the start of this, no pure like source from this, but it honestly could have come from those like, you know, the behind closed doors meeting in a conference room or around the table, and they're all just taking like loads of acid or loads of DMT, and they're just getting this technology from, you know, the machine elves, you know, who have this, hey, this is pretty cool technology, look at this, and here's how here's how you're gonna do it. Like, I mean, that's kind of like rolling on the conspiracy train a little bit, but I mean, hey, like, I mean, it's definitely not out of the realm of possibility. I mean, I would not put it past world leaders and, you know, elites to be doing that, you know.
Yeah. And remember last week we talked about the kind of the story of the guy from Comedy Central who talked about his DMT trip and the entity, his DMT girlfriend, who also contacted one of his friends while he wasn't high and talked about him behind his back. So it was kind of like they were both having essentially talking to the exact same entity while they were both high on drugs. And here you have a current movement right now trying to legalize these same psychedelics. We see Aaron Rodgers and a number of celebrities coming out saying that this stuff needs to be legalized. And like I said, people are always in the rush to do things without really understanding kind of the downfall of a lot of these things. But So yeah, I mean, there's a good question here. I mean, are these entities that we're talking to here, are they actually entities or are they just computer programs? I did want to go back to this point here because Cider, you brought up something on last week's show, like a couple weeks ago, about Google, and Don't Let It Burn here says that Google and Facebook had AIs that went rogue, started developing their own language. They had to shut it down very quickly. You said that Google also had a little instance where they found out that I guess their AI program had gone sentient or gone rogue as well, right? Did you hear the kind of
That
the
was
same story?
Facebook with Deep Blue. That was
Okay.
Facebook with Deep Blue. The Google, I don't know the name of their one. It was a model they were teaching how to walk, and it started making up its own regiment. Like it was activating on its own, making up its own routines, its own situation. And so they shut it down from that point. I know that Google also had. We were on the conspiracy train, so I'll put it on the conspiracy bullet train. Here we go. So a few years ago, it was like 2014, 2015, Google had this weird thing that would happen when you searched Python coding, okay? When you searched Python, Google would immediately, Python coding, it would immediately reroute you from the search result page and ask you to complete a line of code. If you completed that line of code, you were offered a job. All right. Now, the conspiracy behind that was going around 4chan at the time was that the internet had achieved sentience. The compiled code had achieved sentience through the mixture of all these viruses being piled into it. And they needed people that Python was the code that was basically built out of that. And they needed people to come in and wrangle that consciousness. Now, this could be what we're dealing with AI, what they learned from that compiled mess of the old internet. They could have figured out, like, okay, this is how we put this together here and how we put brain mapping into place and stuff like that. And that was the prevailing theory on the internet, was that Google was at the head of this stuff, just really pulling the spookiest stuff out of the most corrupted ends of the internet in order to string it together into something functional.
Yep, very much so. And it's funny to me how there was an interview that Elon Musk did years ago on Joe Rogan. Some of you guys might remember this, but Joe Rogan asked him, this is several years ago, even way before he had put in the bid for Twitter. He asked him about like AI, like, what do you think about like AI and the possibility of it?
Terrified.
And yeah, he was absolutely terrified. And like he even said, like at one point, it's like, yeah, I tried to warn him. It's like, I tried to warn them, they didn't listen, and then even like Rogan kind of like went back. It's like, well, you making it seem like that something bad has already happened that we don't know about, and Musk kind of nonchalantly went like, yeah, I tried to tell him. So
well,
go ahead.
Here's the big picture on that situation. Okay, so Musk created OpenAI. He's the guy who, and that's ChatGPT. That's Midjourney. That's the core of their systems. All right, so you're dealing with a compounded system. So Elon knows the limitations of that thing. I mean, he says, I tried to warn them, is what he means is it's already done. Whatever general AI that Timothy McVeigh was worried about, Elon created. And OpenAI does not have any interest in taming it. That's what I believe he means. His move with Neuralink, though, has always interested me. And I wonder if maybe he wants us to replace AI. So if you could think about this. If an AI does all this crazy stuff, imagine if the human brain was plugged into the computer. So you wouldn't have the sensory delay. You wouldn't have to put the fingers into the keyboard to get the computer going or talk it out. The speed of thought would generate what you did with the machines. Now that sounds really nice on the surface, but when you think about the meaning of that, is that you could end up being the guy that processes all the email for the porn site. That's your job as the human AI, is you got to spam filter all the porn site emails. That's your job. That's it. And I have a feeling that's what Elon's trying to do, is he's trying to put humans in a higher position in the technocracy we're building here than the machines themselves. It's the only thing I can think of.
And I do leads to another question here. So we talked a lot about AI and its capabilities, and like I say, we're seeing people advocating for the chips in the hand, the chips in the brain, and a lot of things in between here. So yeah, I think it was who just mentioned this. Literally just said it a minute ago. I think it was Don't Let It Burn. I want to make sure I get this comment up here, but yeah, he's basically talking about how, Elon Musk is kind of like, oh, here it is. Elon Musk is a technocrat who wants to merge our minds with artificial intelligence. Well, I mean, that's a narrative that's been out there for quite some time. If you've been paying attention, this whole idea of like transhumanism. And there was I guess, an EDM concert that happened not too long ago where these were the images that they were portraying during the concert. You can see here is essentially this idea that we're going to hook up human beings to technology in a lot of ways, and that the two are going to merge to like become one. And you see this portrayed many times in a lot of these countries. It's kind of like out in the open now. You'll see this in like popular movies, popular music videos, popular TV shows, kind of this idea of humans and robots becoming one. Now here's another video here. I'll pop it in here as well, which is a little bit more disturbing exactly what they're doing here. But yeah, I think this is like the same. Yeah, exactly. Like the same event here. Keep in mind, the one thing that bothers me here too is that there's like hundreds and thousands of people like in attendance for this, and they're all just like putting up their cell phones like this is the amazing thing that they've ever seen like in their entire life, and nobody's thinking about what exactly what is happening on screen right here. Like, what is this like portraying? I think people are too traumatized or tranced by the music that they don't like, even like look at like what's going on. Like, something about this doesn't exactly feel right. You know what I mean? It's like it feels like this thing is either putting a curse on me right now, or it's telling me what the future is going to be, and no one's really truly paying attention to it because everyone's just focused on, oh, the music is great and I'm on Molly, so that's all I truly care about. But like I said, there are people out here who are all into this whole idea of transhumanism, of man and machine becoming one. So when we're talking about the idea of like, well, what are demons are controlling this whole thing, I want to pull back just a little bit further into that. We mentioned with Rylan here a couple of minutes ago, let's say that all of this technological advances are actually coming from more nefarious entities. Well, what would be the end game of having a man and machine becoming one? It's not for a man and machine to become like the super hybrid that is going to like rule the earth one day. From my perspective, if this is coming from those entities, they're trying to essentially replace humanity with machines. Because, like I said, we're talking about AI essentially putting a large number of people out of work somewhere in the near future, the next 5 to 10 years. A lot of people are going to be out of jobs because robots are essentially going to take over the workforce here. A lot of humans are going to be rendered essentially useless because robots or AI technology has already taken over their job. And then we've gone even further there. It goes into the whole idea of depopulation, like you mentioned earlier, this narrative out there that, hey, there's too many people in the world. We need to cut out the people because you're leaving a bad, quote unquote, carbon footprint. And this is something that's been portrayed a lot of times. Remember last week we played the video of the guy who claimed that he had contact with aliens, or that the government had contact with aliens. And the alien message was that your planet is too overpopulated. You're going to run out of resources. You need to figure out a way to cap that. There's people out there in power that truly believe this, and they are trying to find ways to curl the human population. And look, you got things coming on with the LGBTQ community. When people aren't reproducing naturally, that means there's going to be less people. You have policies in certain countries, one child, and that's it. You're not allowed to have a second child. We have relationships between men and women that are all-time lows right now. People aren't naturally, getting married, having healthy relationships, reproducing kids. We're seeing that all right now as we happen, and we're seeing the human population dip, and we're seeing the uprise in technology go up. So is this part of the end game here? Is essentially to replace God's creation, humanity, with almost a demonic creation in technology? Do you guys think that could be where we're heading here? I'll start with Johnny.
Yeah, I definitely think this is kind of modern day Nephilim, instead of the fallen angels coming and reproducing with females directly, they're corrupting our DNA, our minds with just transhumanism, making us not human and unsavable by Jesus' sacrifice on the cross, which I believe is only valid for humans.
Yeah. I mean, we literally had this conversation yesterday about this idea. It's like, well, is my dog gonna go to heaven? It's like, get saved. It's like, well, he's not really having a soul, so it's not exactly like the same thing. Like, Jesus didn't die for the sins of dogs and animals and stuff like that. But I mean, there's a number of different ways that you can go about, kind of the end game. Like, say, you could just straight up replace humanity altogether, or you could just make it so that humanity is so corruptible that they can't be redeemed, which is another satanic deception. Like, there's a lot of things going on here, and none of them are are particularly good at the end of the day. And then one more thing that we want to address up here before we jump over to our ending topic, which would be the central bank digital currencies. But we've mentioned a couple of times throughout the course of this show this idea that there's people out there who apparently want to rewrite the Bible, essentially corrupt the word of God to the point that it's either meaningless. Not only the fact that it's meaningless, but some people can essentially create its own religion used off of AI. And here you have a guy, what's this guy's name? I want to get it right. From the World Economic Forum. I know, shocker, his name is Noah Hatari here. Oh, dude, that's his name. And he's talking about the idea of using AI technology to not only rewrite the Bible, but create its own Bible, thus creating its own correct religion. This is what he's mentioning here in this video. I'll play it for you guys here.
The third thing about AI that everybody needs to know, it's the first technology ever that can create new ideas. You know, the printing press, radio, television, they broadcast, they spread the ideas created by the human brain, by the human mind. They cannot create a new idea. You know, Gutenberg printed the Bible in the middle of the 15th century. The printing press printed as many copies of the Bible as Gutenberg instructed it, but it did not create a single new page. It had no ideas of its own about the Bible. Is it good? Is it bad? How to interpret this? How to interpret that? AI can create new ideas, can even write a new Bible. We, you know, throughout history, religions dreamt about having a book written by a superhuman intelligence, by a non-human entity. Every religion claims our book, all the other books of the other religions, humans wrote them. But our book, no. It came from some superhuman intelligence. In a few years, there might be religions that are actually correct. That just think about a religion whose holy book is written by an AI. That could be a reality in a few years.
So there's a lot of implications of what he's saying there, essentially endorsing the idea that, you know, the Bible was something that was created by man and it hasn't changed. And that's just apparently a problem in his eyes. So it's like, what if we can create technology that can rewrite the Bible and put new ideas into the Bible so that way we can change and progress as a society, right? Now, if you guys sound a little bit familiar to you, let me go ahead and put this back up here. This is from Galatians 1, 8 through 9. I'm using New King James for this interpretation. But if we or if an angel in heaven preach any other gospel to you other than what we have preached, let him be accursed. In other words, let him be damned. As we've said to you before, so I will say it again, anyone who preaches any other gospel to you than what you have been received, let him be cursed. Now, if only Muhammad had listened to that particular verse, we probably wouldn't have Islam right now. But that's another week's conversation. But like I said, it's this idea that, you know, these people who, let's be very, very honest here, not friendly to the Christian community whatsoever, who kind of views the Christianity with, you know, ire and hatred. They think, oh yeah, we can use this program, this technology to rewrite the Bible into a way that's more fitting for us, more fitting for our views and stuff like that. And I know you may think that, well, they'll never allow AI to rewrite the Bible. I know that there's plenty of people out there who supposedly Christians, even Christians that we know, who do not have physical copies of the Bible. They all have copies of the Bible on their phone, and they all talk about, oh, how great it is that I can just pull up the Bible on my phone anytime that I want. It's like, yeah, that's great now because you have the ability. In the next few years, you may not have that ability moving forward. And not only that, but we already have AI writing church sermons. This was from, I believe, back in a couple months ago in June, but there was an AI church sermon in Germany where I guess they tested this out. They let AI write an entire sermon in church. So people were at this church and there was no pastor. It was an AI-led church service in Germany. And the spiritual takeaways, quote unquote, were mixed from a lot of people. They said that ChatGPT bot embodied multiple on-screen avatars and oversaw a 40-minute devotional to over 300 congregants at St. Paul's Church in Germany. They said the experiments was featuring music, prayers, and AI-generated sermon that took place at the Protestant convention in Germany, where this year's abruptly enough was titled "Now is the Time." Now, if you remember, our second episode of this podcast was listed as the compromise of the church. I don't know how anyone can possibly think that having AI and computer generated technology lead church sermons will be a good thing, because let's be honest, I don't think anyone here can claim to know the Bible by heart, hand by hand. If I were to pick up a page and give you a verse right now, you probably have to go back and look at it and figure it out yourself. Meaning that if you have AI that's now creating sermons, they can be saying anything there. If you have no way to fact check or no way to, I guess, test that spirit of what they're saying, they can teach you a completely different gospel. You would have absolutely no idea. You would just assume, well, it does say it's the Bible, so I'm just assuming that the AI is reading the Bible as it's written. It may not be. It may be changing very key aspects of the Bible that could be the difference between somebody's salvation and not. And if that's the road that we're going here, that's a very, very terrifying aspect there. But what do you think about, I can start with Rylan here. What do you think of this idea of AI changing the Bible and going as far as having church sermons written by AI?
I mean, it's just like, I don't know. I mean, the thoughts kind of write itself with this. Like,
yeah,
like, I don't know. I just feel like they might be doing it for like novelty, to try to get like, new Christians in, and if you want to market it all over your social media that, hey, ChatGPT is preaching on Sunday. Like,
yeah,
like, I guess for like non-believers, that's gonna kind of, okay, making sure these dogs aren't doing anything stupid. I mean, I guess for non-believers, it's kind of like a draw, because like that's what they see on Twitter and stuff. But like, if you're kind of really deep into like you've been in the church for a couple of years, you kind of know like the general fundamentals of it. I feel like it's making more people's stomachs turn than it is making them excited.
Yeah. Well, I think it's making true believers' stomach turn at the idea that this is essentially what the future has in store for them in their religion. But there's a lot of people out there who either aren't believers, either they're lukewarm, or like I said, you have these people in the World Economic Forum that just hate Christianity outright, who are very excited about the idea of AI technology advancing, quote unquote, the word of God in their minds. But like I said, I don't think their God is the same thing as our God. Would you agree with that, Johnny?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. Sam, did you have something to say?
Yeah, I just think it's interesting that this guy who is like overtly rejected religion, specifically Christianity, is so excited about this idea of creating a new religion that he would subscribe to. And I watched that video that you sent. The entire idea is that with the intelligence that AI has, it could create something that has some sort of that's rooted in some sort of truth based on everything that we know in the world. But I just don't understand why, if you reject religion to the degree that this guy rejects religion, you would subscribe to something that was written by AI. It seems a little bit counterintuitive.
You would think so, but like I said, at the same time, I think a lot of people kind of like either not ignorant of the fact, but they don't think that when people are doing stuff like this, that they have nefarious intents like in their heart. Like people think that, oh, these things just kind of like go out of control or go off the wayside. What if the things that are happening right now are done very, very purposely? Like, what if they intend on things to quote unquote go awry? What if this is their intention? What if this is their end game? I don't think a lot of people really consider that. They just kind of, I think it's hard for people to kind of to accept the concept or accept the idea that there's some people in the world who are just evil. There are some people in the world who are just bad people who want to do really bad things, and some of them may have very high positions of power in our government, in our society. And when you put that together, it's like, oh yeah, the picture that I'm painting right now doesn't look very good when you start putting the colors together. But Cider, do you have something you want to say?
Yeah, I'm sharing my screen right now. It's quite terrifying what I'm about to explain. So take a look at this. It beams music directly into your head without headphones. Isn't that interesting? So you don't need to have earbuds. You don't need to have headphones. You need to have the bone resonance, I don't know, tooth thingy. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is a machine that sits in the corner of your room and beams sound into your skull. Okay? Wherever you go in the room, the sound follows you and nobody else gets it unless you've trained it to. Okay? That's the way this tech works. Now, where do you go on this earth without your phone? Where? Nowhere.
Yeah, not today.
Okay? So I don't know if you guys have looked into this or not, but maybe something to search after this show is called Project Bluebeam. The Project Bluebeam surfaced in the mid 80s. It's about them using technology to project Jesus and other religious figures around the world as aliens arrive and level the capitals and important cities in order to scare humanity into believing that aliens at the charge of Jesus have returned to like de-sin the earth. And so you'll note that we now have drones that can project full 3D holograms in mist, right? What's a cloud again? Yeah, it's a mist. So a big bright light shows up in the sky, 200-foot tall Jesus shows up, and he starts talking to you personally. And because it's run by the AI on your phone, it knows your name of your family, it knows your holidays, it has your work schedule, it has your most recent text, it has your Facebook posts, it has your therapy appointments saved in text reading documents based on the phone conversations you had, and the microphone you spoke into, and your computer that it's linked to. It knows your travel habits. So guess what? A very personal Jesus starts talking into your head while a 200-foot projection up in the sky tells you to bow down and eat the bugs.
Yeah. Like I said, there's a lot of we talked about this here in Revelations. There's a lot of claims of false wonders that will be created by essentially the two in-game biblical figures here that are going to deceive a lot of people, and people don't exactly know like how this whole thing is going to work out. My first question was, well, how exactly is it going to be able to project all these images in your mind with no headphones whatsoever? Well, whether that could be the end game with a lot of these chips that people are implanting in themselves, where it's like, hey, we can just put all this stuff in your mind. You don't have to buy headphones anymore. Not how much convenient it would be if you didn't have to listen to headphones anymore, because they fall out. They go, what if we just put something directly in your head so that you can just listen to music and television anytime you want? You don't think there's going to be millions of suckers who are going to like buy into that and think to yourself, oh yeah, this sounds like a great idea. It's so much more convenient. And what if our own founding fathers of this country said about people who trade convenience and safety for their freedom? That they don't yeah, exactly.
Do you remember those commercials on the old Fox News and the old conservative channels, like at 2 a.m. for the old people? Like they had a set of earbuds that ran off to a microphone that sat in front of the television. You had that long line and went back. Tired of Grandpa listening to the television too loud in the middle of the night? Just drill a hole into his head and insert the chip right now. Then you'll never have to worry about the Weather Channel being too loud or Bill O'Reilly screaming at you in the middle of the night.
Yep. Yeah, like I said, people, it's kind of just amazing just to see just how blind a lot of the people are to like this. Because I mean, you can argue that well, you don't know for certain if this is exactly like where it's going, but on the other side, it's like you can put enough pieces together to where you start putting a puzzle together. And it's like, I don't like the image that I'm creating right now because I'm about 80% of the way done, and this looks pretty bad from what I'm seeing.
If you can think of it, the machine thought of it 100 different ways by the time you got to the point of uh-oh.
Yep. Exactly right. So there's one last aspect here before we wrap things up, and it's something that we haven't really talked too much about here because it's gonna wrap up on our endpoint here. It's the idea of central bank digital currencies. Now, what is your idea of what a central bank digital currency is? Just by hearing it, I'm gonna ask you guys before we get into it here. What do you think a CBDC actually is? Let's start with Ryan.
Well, I mean, the starting point was universal basic income, and that's just kind of goes hand in hand with it. But basically, all your money is just not existent. It's a number on your phone, and it's a number that the government can shut off. You know, supposedly if you happen to be a part of a trucking convoy for some reason, or you know, yeah, it's just.
You smile at a guy playing a drum in your face.
Literally, and like I've even like when I do banking on my phone, I'm like looking at this and I'm like, what's stopping them from just like locking this? Like this is not even my money. I don't have this in physical. Like, yeah, it's a number on my phone. It gives me security. I can put my card up to a machine. But other than that, like that's it.
Sam.
Call on me last.
Sorry, there, Johnny.
CBDCs are like coupons. I think that's a fun analogy I've heard used because essentially CBDCs are going to be employed in like a fully cashless society. So you won't be able to have any like alternative means to go and buy anything, and it's kind of like a cryptocurrency, but founded by the central bank, the U.S. government, the World Economic Forum, what have you. And once there's no cash and it's only this option to buy and sell things, all of a sudden you can like only allow a person to purchase things that will like decrease their carbon footprint, or you can enforce things like negative interest rates, which essentially means your bank account is going to drain over time, and they'll advertise this as like, oh, we can use the features of CBDCs to like stimulate the economy and stuff like that. Make sure people use and spend the money that we give them from their like tax returns quickly instead of like saving it. So then business is stimulated and stuff like that. And I don't know, it's just another like method of control that it's just screams mark of the beast.
I have a question. Sorry. I just have a little question regarding there was supposed to be like a federal Venmo-esque platform. I don't know if I've heard any news about that recently, but
FedNow.
Yeah.
It got like right now, I believe it's only used in banks and businesses. It was deployed in mid-July, of course, very discreetly, because they don't want the American people freaking out. They want to build some sort of foundation before we, the people, can do anything about it. But yeah, it's out and about, and no one's talking about it.
Yep. Well, I'm gonna play this video from a good YouTube channel. If you look into financial advice, called Heresy Financial. I'll give you guys a link in the chat later on here. But he's basically talking about kind of the idea of what central bank digital currency is and what they can do if it's implemented. So listen to a little bit of this video here.
So just as before, we have two issues: bank failures and government spending. And this is exactly where the central bank digital currency will come in. But many say, hey, wait a second, we already have digital money and we already have a Federal Reserve that can print, $1 trillion, $2 trillion overnight. So how would a central bank digital currency make any difference to any of this? First, we have to understand what a ledger is. Every bank today operates off of a ledger. Just imagine a list, an Excel spreadsheet that has all the different account numbers and how much money is in each of those accounts, and then all the transactions that took place in those accounts. That's exactly how your bank operates all of its accounts. It just has a list with all the money and all the transactions. And then when you spend money and money goes from your account to the grocery store's bank account at a different bank, then your bank will send money over to that bank and they will both reconcile their own ledgers. Bitcoin is an example of a decentralized ledger that is public. And so anybody can go in and look at all of the accounts, the Bitcoin accounts called wallets, and see what Bitcoin is in each of those accounts, and then see all the transactions that led to those amounts being in those accounts. Bank ledgers are examples of private ledgers. And so the banks maintain their own control over their own ledgers, and nobody else can see them but the bank. It's worth noting that the banks have control over their ledgers. So if they want to stop a transaction from taking place, they can. Have you ever tried to wire money or send a transaction and a little notification pops up and says, hey, we need further verification before this transaction goes through? And you have to speak to your bank and they make sure that it's not fraud, or they ask you what the purpose is of the transaction. And so banks maintain control over their own ledgers. They can reverse transactions, they can stop transactions, or they can cause transactions to happen. This is why the European Central Bank is being so adamant about saying that the digital euro will not be programmable. And the same rhetoric is coming out of the Bank of England saying the digital pound will not be programmable either. But guess what? The Patriot Act wasn't supposed to be used against US citizens who were not participating in any crimes either. But the power to be able to do something is the problem itself. It's not the fact that you give us a guarantee or a promise that you won't use it that way. It's that you have the capability should you ever change your mind. And just as your bank can stop or cause or reverse a transaction from taking place today, a central bank digital currency puts all that power under one roof, the central bank, the Federal Reserve in the United States. So instead of deposits being held with a bunch of different banks, and then banks having to reconcile and batch transactions and settle over months or quarters with each other, instead, all transactions just take place underneath the one banner, the one ledger at the central bank. So you and every business out there has to have an account with the one bank, the central bank, and anytime a transaction takes place, the central bank just moves the money from your account to somebody else's account. Instant and full control. This means the risk of exercising too much control over the money system goes through the roof, because right now the Federal Reserve has two mandates by Congress: full employment and stable prices.
Yep.
So they try and accomplish these goals with monetary policy, like raising and lowering interest rates and buying and selling assets. But a central bank digital currency would allow them to get rid of those sledgehammer tools and use a more scalpel-like approach to trying to control and fine-tune the economy. If they see inflation rising up, instead of having to raise interest rates on all debt, all they have to do is institute higher prices or a real-time tax on any area that is getting too expensive. Or instead of that, they can even just institute real-time rations. And so if gas prices are shooting up and they say it's because you're hoarding gas, just like people used to hoard toilet paper, then they will say, okay, you know what? We're going to say you can't spend more than $400 this month on gas. And if there are prices of something that are collapsing and they see, oh, this poses systemic risk, then they could limit transactions of sales of those items to stop those sales from causing the prices to fall. Now,
I'll just pause right there. So essentially what you're saying here is that with a central bank digital currency, every aspect of your financial life can essentially be controlled by the government at this point, which means that they can control all your access to your funds. Like, it wouldn't just be like in your Chase account or your Wells Fargo account. It would be directly controlled by the government. And we've seen this numerous times over the last few years about how if there's certain purchases that, let's just say, a certain political party doesn't agree with, that you should be making. Maybe you want to buy, I don't know, a new shotgun. It's like, hey, I like guns. It's like, well, we determine based on your purchases that you own too many guns, or that you spend too much money on ammunition and food and things of that nature. We don't exactly like that. We can just go ahead and just deny that.
Yeah, I got you even better. They're going to go this route. This is what they're going to do. They're going to say gun violence has been high in your area recently. We are not allowing gun purchases for the next 6 months in this area until the criminals are contained.
Mm-hmm. And guess what? It's never going to get contained, which means that you don't have a right to own a gun anymore.
Exactly,
right?
But that's what they'll do. That way your rights aren't being violated. They're trying to keep everybody else safe.
Hey, 15 days to slow the spread, right?
Right, 2 more weeks, guys. 2 more weeks.
And then, like I said, this is removing the idea of like this cashless society that we're talking about here. Is that we're going to remove any kind of physical bartering chip you could possibly make, which means cash. We're going to try to hold gold, silver, things like that. Any way that you could possibly get around our system, we're going to put a hammer to that. That way you can only go through us. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but over the course of the last calendar year, there's been a lot of crypto billionaires that have mysteriously died in very shady circumstances over the course of the last few years. Some people have gotten killed on vacation in the Bahamas. Other people have literally said, help, the CIA is coming to kill me, and then they ended up dead. Yeah, that's 3 that I can count. I know
I'm telling you, 3 weeks ago, BlackRock bought into blockchain. They're now trading on the cryptocurrency. So it's over.
Yep.
They're plugged into it now. They have control of it.
And this is what I've been feeling for a long time, is that they know that because Bitcoin specifically, and you can talk about any other coins, like for me, the only 2 real serious coins out there is Bitcoin and Ethereum. Everybody else, you're basically just playing the lottery and hoping for the best at that point. But when it comes to Bitcoin and Ethereum, because they're decentralized, because they're anti-inflationary, and because people can use that as a tool to get around like the system, because if you're on like Coinbase or even like Binance, stuff like that, you think, oh, I have crypto, so I should be fine. It's like, if you don't own your keys, you don't own crypto, because even those lenders that you guys use, like Binance or like Coinbase, wherever the case is, the government can come up one day and be like, yeah, we're going to seize those assets. So if your assets are owned directly by those companies, the government can come and take it just like that. But if you have private keys that they don't have access to because they don't have your ledger number, they can't get into it, that's essentially your money that you're free to do whatever you want with. And they don't want people to be able to do that, because if you're able to do that, if you're able to have your own money that the government can't touch, they can't control you. They can't force you to do what you want to do. But if they essentially control all the crypto exchanges, and now they're introducing, oh, the dollar is failing, guys. I don't know if you guys noticed, but inflation is going really bad. All of these wars is not working out in our favor. Here's a central bank digital currency. That way you get our money directly from us. See, we're going to help you with this thing. And everyone is going to get to a point where people are going to be so bad off. They're going to be like, oh, the government is giving us a coin that's going to save us. You don't understand that when they give it to you, it's essentially Satan's gift of, now we got you. Now, this is essentially where it's going to end here. And I do want to bring this up here because this is a popular verse that I'm pretty sure a lot of people have heard of many, many times before. Make sure I pull this up here on my end. But this is where people start asking the question. So of everything that we've talked about throughout the course of the night, this is where people go, what is the end game? Well, let's talk to Revelations 13, 15 through 17. Once again, the New James Version. And he was granted, talking about the Antichrist, he was granted the power to give breath to the image of the beast. And that image of that beast should both speak and cause many as to not worship the image of the beast to be killed. He causes all, both small and great, poor and rich, free and slave, to receive a mark on their hands or on their foreheads, and that no one may be able to buy or sell except those who have the mark or the name of the beast or the number of that name. So in other words, when we talk about the mark of the beast here, we're saying that this is a system that you're going to be forced into. Either people are saying they're going to be coerced into it, but the idea of the mark of the beast is that you're not going to be able to buy food. You're not going to be able to buy goods. If you don't accept the Antichrist as your God, if you don't buy into this system, we're going to pull all the strings from society away from you. You won't be able to participate in society. And it gets to a point where it's like, well, do you have enough food saved up? Do you have enough electricity? Do you have enough aspects of society to survive? Because if you don't, you're going to have two options. One, you're either going to submit, you're going to fall in your line and get the mark of the beast, which means that you're pretty much damned. So anything that happens over the next few years is on you. Or your second choice is death, because those are really the only two choices that you're going to have at that point, unless you can somehow find a way to find a crack that the government hasn't dug into and take advantage of the fact that you can at least sustain yourself for a many limited amount of time that you have up to that point. But that's what is being foretold in Revelations here. They're saying that this is going to happen someday, and we've seen throughout the course of this night, we're seeing the dominoes being laid upon to create that mark of the beast system. So I'll go ahead and shoot this guy over to you guys, because there's a lot of questions about what does this mean for us in our future. A lot of people are asking, does this mean that the Antichrist is going to be AI? I have my thoughts on it, but I'm going to save this for you guys. Johnny, what do you think about the central bank digital currency idea and how this marks with the end times?
I mean, it's just like a simple question. If we don't can the mark of the beast, can no one buying or selling without a mark or without some sort of piece of technology, can that lack of buying or selling without that be enforced if we have cash? And I don't think it can be. Can it be enforced if a human or like a team of humans are just sitting in front of like a wall of monitors, like monitoring everyone? That's not going to work either. So I think the AI and CBDC combination is like pretty dangerous with regard to like actually implementing this technology that enforces no one buying or selling, or else you'll be killed.
Yep. That's essentially what they're saying there. Rylan.
I mean, I can already just see like the lukewarm I guess workplace jargon that the government uses, like very like sweet, coercive. Kind of reminds me of how demons talk, and how they've kind of like how they're very coercive in things, and how it's everything's for your safety, everything's this and that. And I mean, yeah, I mean the more I wake up every day and I just read the news, the more I feel like I mean, it's straight up bullet train straight down to that financial system. And I don't think people are ready for it. I don't think people are preparing. Obviously, they're not because, everyone's too busy watching TikTok and doing all things. And I'm a little I guess what's the word for it? Guilty of it sometimes. As an
We're all
expert.
guilty of it to some extent.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just like it's just a slow drip. It's very slow, and it's eventually it's going to be too late, and we're going to eventually be drowning.
Yeah, and there's a couple of points I want to bring up here. I want to make sure that Cider and Sam get their last thoughts on here, so I'll start with Cider.
So let me white pill you. Okay, there's been a lot of black pilling on AI and CB blah blah blahs. Well, we possess a government that at least feigns the ability to change at the public's demand. We do have a group of senators and representatives that are paying close attention to this and are attempting to pass legislation that prevents AI from invading our constitutional rights, meaning our right to privacy, which means it can't read your dreams. It's not allowed to at least report what it reads anyway. And then the central bank currency, a lot of what should be understood here is that the dollar is going to collapse. That's been set up. It's not because of
it's
BRICS.
already in motion.
It's not because of China. They're killing it off, not because it's useful or anything. It's not useful to them, or it's a part of the CBC thing. Is that the dollar itself has become just amorphous. When we moved it from the gold standard to the how it's traded around the world, it instantly started a roller coaster that we had no ability to control. When it was first introduced, sky's the limit. Here we go. But the first bump along the road felt like an earthquake here in the U.S. And so what we have to do, what they're aiming to do with this is to replace the dollar. Now, in my opinion, this is a good thing for the US. We need to stop being the world standard. That needs to stop. Gold needs to be the world standard, not China's gold, not Russia's, not ours. Gold itself. We get into way too much trouble running all the military and all the money in the world. We really need to stop that. And so this would break that by making a system that's entirely encased in the US, right? Now, combined with constitutional amendments, because we have a constitutional convention coming up. They've been pushing toward it since Obama was elected. So we're going to have a constitutional convention. And what will be discussed are the rights of humans versus invasive AI and big tech. That has been on the charter since it started. So we stand a chance to be the only nation in the world that has AI working for us, not the other way around. It's a chance, and it's slim, and it's fading.
Yep. Sam, any final thoughts you want to share on this one?
Yeah, I guess my bottom line is just prepare. Prepare for a coercive situation where your dollar doesn't matter anymore while your dollar still counts. While you can still buy things, get yourself some food because we don't know what's coming. I mean, it's not looking good. But yeah, just think ahead because it could be the worst case scenario.
Yep, and it's funny how our society has mocked preppers for quite some time about, you guys are always preparing for like the doomsday, prepping up on food and ammo and silver and gold and all that good stuff. It's like, if you haven't gotten into it now, now's a better time to start. Now it's better when you have the ability to get into these things rather than when you need it and you don't have the ability. So let me go ahead and Tarkin has a great point here. Learn to grow some food, and if you don't know how to grow some food, develop some relationship with some local farmers that you have in your area. Exactly. While you still can. Well, while you still can. Now is definitely the time to prepare. So let me answer a few questions here because I know we've been building this thing up all night. So what is my final conclusions to this? Do I believe that the Antichrist is going to be an AI generated being? No, because the Bible makes it very, very clear that the Antichrist and the false prophet are men. They're not machines. They're not anything of that nature. If it was, it would have clarified that. It does not. So I don't believe that AI is going to be essentially the beast that's talked about in Revelations. Do I believe that AI is the image of the beast that is talked about? No, I do not believe that AI is the image of the beast. Do I believe that the brain chips in the hand and the brain chips the chips in the hand and the chips in the brain are going to be the mark of the beast? No, I don't particularly believe that either. Because, like I said, you're talking about the mark of the beast. You're talking about something that in no way, shape, or form are you going to be fooled into accepting this. Even if you do end up with the brain chip one day because, I want to be able to listen to Ariana Grande without headphones. That's not what it's going to be. Trust me. So the question here is that if I don't believe that AI is any of these things, then what do I think AI is? I think that our AI technology is going to be essentially a system that's going to be used and manipulated by the Antichrist. I think he's going to essentially, if you read how this whole thing plays out, when we start going into Armageddon age, there's going to be a lot of countries that are going to be in war with each other. I think that the countries that end up getting conquered in that war, the Antichrist will take those countries' technology and essentially use it to his advantage. So even though the brain chips may not start off as something as nefarious, it could end up being something that ends up that way in the near future. Why? Because essentially the country has fallen, and now that person is using that technology against his people. I think that's a very real possibility that can happen. So if I believe all that to be true, I think the only question left was, well, who do you believe the Antichrist is? Who do you believe the false prophet is? And this is a question that so many people have been wondering. There's been people who have made the assumption that, it has to be like a U.S. president because he's going to be a popular person, right? I don't think it's a U.S. president. People are saying that, it's the Pope. The Pope has to be the Antichrist because, no, he's perverting the word of God. It's like, I don't think it's him either. I don't believe that he's it. I don't think it's going to be somebody like Elon Musk because I don't see Elon Musk being that person. I don't think it's going to be someone like a Mr. Beast. I know Mr. Beast has somehow become a popular target for the Antichrist as well for whatever reason. It's like, no, it's not going to be him either.
It's the Mr. Beast burger, really.
Yeah, that one probably did it. So who do I believe is the Antichrist and who do I believe is the false prophet? Well, next week, that's exactly what we're going to talk about because I want to tell you guys a little story about the Islamic Jesus Christ and who is called the Mahdi, the savior of the Islamic people. And could that two combination of people be the exact figures that the Bible warned about 600 years before Muhammad's first revelation? So that's going to be episode 5 of this podcast, the story of the Mahdi and the Muslim Jesus. So I think that'll be a very good turn away and teaser for next week's episode here. So until then, I just want to go ahead and thank all of you guys for joining me here tonight for this episode. I will give you guys a chance to promote anything that you got coming up. I will start with Sam, who's face deep into her phone right now. I'll start with Sam. Do you have anything that you want to tell people, maybe a TikTok or anything like that for the future?
You can follow me on TikTok. Sam got a TikTok. And that is all. God bless. Read your Bibles.
Mm-hmm. Rylan, it's up to you. I see you got your socials down there.
Right there? Yep. Okay, cool. Yeah, I actually joined the call and then I was like, oh, wait, I can do that now. I don't really have anything else to promote. Just social medias and like what Sam said, just keep reading those Bibles and don't depend on YouVersion to tell you the gospel. Depend on the pages, the red letters. So
it does the other thing. If you're looking into prepping right now, get a physical Bible. Get multiple physical Bibles. Even if you're not for you, maybe get it for other people as well, because those are going to be very, very important. If you're one of those people that's like, no, I got it on my phone, it's like you might want to change that and change it fast. Johnny, I see you got a Substack there. What you got?
Yeah, check out my Substack. Lots of end time stuff. And yeah, don't get the brain chip. Just keep some cash on hand. Maybe gold too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, silver wouldn't help too. I mean, unless you just want to collect solid gold coins, that could be a little tough to sell too. But just throwing it out there. And then I want to also give an invite to our good buddy Cider here, who joined us on a Monday night to talk about AI technology, the end of the world, and some other stuff that he probably didn't get a chance to talk about on other platforms. So, what do you got coming up? Where can people find more of you if they want to hit up more of you here?
Well, while Mr. Trent is away, I am soloing the Bounding Beyond show on Mondays over on Bounding Into Comics. We cover box office. Apparently, Barbie kicked the teeth out of TMNT this weekend. Its opening weekend got overwashed by Barbie's third weekend.
No, it's bad.
So I'm also over on John De La Rosa's channel as his co-host on the Dank Stream. I would recommend not watching that with your parents or children. Just saying.
Yeah, it's not exactly a Christian show, and that's not
No.
because John's a Catholic. It's because, you know.
Well, he enjoys chaos. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And I have my own channel. I talk a lot about Barbie right now because I think Ken is the image of what the 21st century man is capable of being. And they made a mistake of that. They made a mistake showing us that. And I think it's Ken-pilled quite a few young men. And I want to push that. I want to see guys to be able to say, like, no, I don't want to fit into a corporate dynamic, and I don't want to be crushed under corporate feminism either. I want to be Kenough.
Yeah, Barbie 2 is literally going to be Ken as the Antichrist, and I'm going to love it.
They're going to go full making him gay. I guarantee it. They're full make him gay. It's the only way they can do it now. They've got to break the those guys who like the Virgin Windmills and the guy with the funny mustache.
Yeah, he's
They've
going to
got
wear
break
like
their
a
interest in it.
Trans Kids Matter shirt or something like
Yep.
that. Like that's
Yep.
the only way they're going to do it.
Yeah. I'm convinced they're not going to release the same movie you saw in theaters. I think they're going to edit it to make Ken. They're going to make like film a rape scene or something to make him like awful. So you absolutely hate associating with him.
It's like, why is Ken wearing a Nazi patch all of a sudden? Like, I didn't see that the first time.
I don't remember the armband in the theater version.
Yeah, all you say Zig Hill. Okay, whatever. Right? But letting you guys know what we got coming up here tomorrow night on the Barroom Podcast, episode 60. We got some good topics to talk about. We're going to talk about DC fans getting upset about James Gunn's direction now that he's seemingly bringing back Gal Gadot. We're going to talk about the tension between him and Henry Cavill and The Rock. Jamie Foxx got called out for anti-Semitism for saying that they killed Jesus in the context of the story that had absolutely nothing to do about the Jews whatsoever. We'll talk about that. NBA fans are now attacking the Orlando Magic because they gave a donation to Ron DeSantis. Apparently that is unforgivable in the eyes of NBA fans. Mark Maron defends Barbie from conservatives. He thinks you guys are dumb poo-poo heads. So I wonder how Cider feels about that. Then we'll also talk about Doja Cat's latest, let's just say, art-filled music video, which is just Satanism thrown right in your face that people are just going to say, it's just art, bro. Well, we'll talk about that tomorrow as well. And then Friday night, myself and maybe a few of these people here on the podcast, if they want to watch the latest Gal Gadot movie, Heart of Stone, on Friday night, we'll talk about that movie and do a review on that one on our Friday night movie cast. And like I said, next Monday night, episode 5 of the Bible Lens, we're going to start getting to the real controversial stuff. We're going to start getting into the stuff that's really going to make people upset. So I'm really looking forward to where this show is going over the course of the next few weeks. So to everyone who joined us here in our show, Leslie Tarkin, Duke Nukem, I'm gonna make sure I get Eddie Ice Productions. I know Copa was here for a little bit. Don't Let Them Burn. I saw Rylan was in the chat earlier tonight. I know we have some people on Rumble as well. I see it's a user 2491. I want to give a shout out to you as well, who was over there at that chat. And then Vanya also joining us here, saying that started reading my Bible recently. Yeah, like I said, that would be a good time to do it because you never know when the end is coming, and we know that it could be rapidly heading our way right now. So until then, we'll hopefully see you guys tomorrow night. But like I said, the way that we end every show here, we're going to give you guys the gospel played by Vodi Bakum. So enjoy, you guys. We'll see you guys tomorrow night. Adios. Goodbye.
When people say, no, our problem is this, our problem is that, we say, no. Our problem is that God created the world. And God created man, and he put man in the garden to keep the garden. And he gave the man a command. And he held that man to perfect, perpetual obedience to that command. And he promised him life if he kept it, and death if he didn't. And he didn't keep it. He ate. And because he ate, because of that one man, sin entered the world, and death through sin. And everyone born from that man through ordinary generation inherited that man's sin nature. And because of that sin nature, sins proceed from it. And our world is broken because of that sin. And we stand guilty before a holy and righteous God. And we know that he's holy, and we know that he's righteous, and we crave justice. But the problem is that if God gives us justice, we all die. And so that God, in his goodness and in his mercy, sent forth his son, who was not born of ordinary generation, but was born of a virgin. Yes, the virgin birth matters. Why? Because if he's born of ordinary generation, he's born in sin. But because he's not born of ordinary generation, he's not born in sin. He's clean of sin. His record is clean. And he keeps his record clean. And he obeys God's law. And because he's fully God and fully man, he obeys the law of God on our behalf in his active obedience. And then in his passive obedience, God made him who knew no sin to be sin for us. All we like sheep had gone astray. Each of us had turned to his own way, but God laid upon him the iniquity of us all. And Christ died for sin once for all, the just for the unjust. And God imputes our sinfulness to him. And he nails our sinfulness to the tree. And Christ dies and raises again on the third day for our justification. And there's another imputation. The righteousness of Christ is actually imputed to us so that God can be both just and the justifier of the one who places faith in Jesus Christ. So that all those who come to Christ may enter in. So that all those who place faith in Christ might be saved, but not only saved, but sanctified. Because he's the firstborn of many brethren. We're justified and we're adopted into the family of God. And we're sanctified. And as his children, we begin to bear the family resemblance. And we're further sanctified throughout this life by the very same gospel that saves us. Until one day when it's all said and done, we're not just saved from the penalty of sin. We're not just saved from the power of sin, but one day we're glorified and saved from the very presence of sin. That's the gospel that we preach. That's the gospel that we need. And that's the gospel that's more than enough.